And having said that, I call to the order of the meeting, and then we move to 702 agenda item, that is open forum first. Do we have anybody have any questions that is not on the agenda and would like to bring it up for Finance Committee consideration? Okay, that's a long enough pause. We will move on, and we welcome the new Finance Committee members since we have last met, and that would be Tom, right? Okay, hey Tom, welcome to Finance Committee. And you want to say a couple of sentences for us? Or
sure, glad to be part of this this group. I've been part of the Westford community for over 16 years, only living in town for the past 6 or so. I formerly worked in the IT department and now am over in Tingsboro working in the IT department there. So I'm looking forward to giving back to Westford on this group.
good. Thank you, and welcome, and you will have fun here. Okay. Having said that, the next item is consider reserve fund transfer requests. Town clerk, yes, Dan.
Ingrid is new to the Finance Committee as well, so we should introduce her.
I thought she. Oh, I thought she was there at the town meeting.
You were at the town meeting. Okay, this is our first televised. So, Ingrid, welcome.
It's been a while. Thank you.
Fine. Ingrid, welcome. But when Ingrid is not a new member, she has been there. She has done this. Okay. Anything else before we move to 705 agenda item for reserve fund transfer? Okay, so it is for the consideration of $7,450 towards additional voting tabulators. Patty?
You about it?
Yeah.
Well, this has been a item on the capital planning for about 5 or 6 years, and it was held off a bit last year, like everything. And I had gotten 2 quotes from the 2 companies that are certified to sell voting tabulators in Massachusetts. And the price was a little bit higher than what we had originally been quoted because prices went up, but we are also getting another precinct in Westford because our population increased. So we always try to have an extra voting tabulator. So the difference in price is the $7,450 is the difference between 7 and 8 machines, and just a little bit of an increase in the price of them all over. But I do have the rest, the balance encumbered. I know I can talk. I went to a conference today all day in Springfield and I just blew in the door and here I am. So if you have any questions, please ask, but it seems they cost more money now.
Okay. Christina?
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
So I have a little bit of a question on this. Can we go over the math? Because for some reason, it's not quite working out for me. I'm kind of off by like $200.
Probably not, but let me see if I can. One of the spare machines, honestly, I'm not sure the difference. I just know that I have a quote for the amount of $42,650 for 8 of them. The spare tabulator doesn't come with the case or anything. It's just the actual tabulator. We have the ballot boxes that's all part of the other 7 that I would need. I just subtracted what I had for money and what I got as a quote, and that was what I needed to make this happen.
Okay. The other question I had was, I thought at Capitol at the end of last year, we had asked if the quote was still valid, and I thought they told you yes. So what happened?
It was, but that was before we had the town meeting in June, and then they were held off from June and they went to, wait a minute, it was supposed to be in the fall. It went to June, and in that time, the price increased.
Oh, so they're, okay. So
Yeah.
the quote was not updated since from a year ago.
That's correct. I got a new quote July 27th after this town meeting when it was approved from the, the one we had in June.
Mhm.
And this was the difference.
Okay.
I tried to keep the other one. I said, but you've held it for a couple of years now. And they said, yes, we held it for a couple of years now for you. So this is what I got.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay, so Patty, I have a couple. So does this come with all the warranties and the other kind of service, or do we have? Are we looking for an additional amount to service additional number of voting machines, voting tabulators?
We are looking for one additional tabulator, but I do pay a fee every year as far as maintenance. They come as many times as I want them to during the year. They go through all the machines, make sure everything is perfect, make any adjustments, clean them, whatever you do with tabulators.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we do pay extra for that, but it's one price for however many we have.
Okay. And since we have one more tabulator, would that price for year to year increases going next year? Or do we have an annual maintenance plan for this?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay.
That's in my regular budget.
Okay, that's
already
really
budgeted.
yeah, that's what I was going with. Okay.
Okay.
And are these same kind as we already have, or there is a different kind?
These are new. The machines that we have, we got in 1999. So they lasted us for 21 years. And actually, they still seem to be working fine, but they're obsolete. So when you need to get new ribbons and new parts and different things in there, they aren't going to be available much longer. So it was time to move up. These should be just that much better. And we hope to get them soon so we can all learn how to use them properly.
Okay. Thank you for your clarifications. Does anybody on the finance committee have any other questions or comments before we move for approving or any of the other stuff? Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion for this? Okay, Christina.
I move that we approve this reserve fund transfer in the amount of $74.50 for voting tabulators.
Second. Okay. I'll roll call. You can say aye. I can't see everybody, so just use point. And first, Hari. Aye. Christina.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Ingrid.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
Jake.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
That concludes it. Thank you,
very
Patty.
much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
The next item is review and make recommendations for the following articles for October 16th special town meeting. And the first one being approve fiscal 22-year capital appropriations. And so Dan, do we vote all of them together or separately, or do we let them look at it and then see if we can make a box separate, we categorize them?
Unless somebody wants to separate one of the articles, we usually vote them together.
Okay. So everybody has seen in their packet that it's a total of $785,000 worth of capital appropriations for fiscal year 2022. And does anyone have any, do you want to discuss individually? Does anybody have any questions around any of them? Okay, that's silent group. So I will ask a couple of questions. The first one is about the Cameron Center HVAC design. So this is just a replacement design, not in replacing the HVAC system itself. Paul, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for having me here. Yes, your question, it is just for the design of the replacement for the system. We did go out initially with BLW engineering with some short monies, and we quickly found out that the project scope of work is going to be much larger. And then two, when we want to go, we're going to want to go and we're going to really be careful with the designer selection that we move forward with, because we really want to focus on quality of materials and products going in, and it's going to make the scope of work and the bid packet a little bit more challenging to work with.
Okay. We have been, I know that historically, since I've been here for 5 years, there are quite a bit of problems with the HVAC system and in that scene. And so this is basically kind of replacing it all. We don't want to depend on that anymore, and we just want to close that issues permanently, correct?
Yes, that is correct, and there's a lot of excitement towards what that could look like.
I know. So I have only one more question, and where does the trade-off lie between fixing it versus fixing it $10,000 or $20,000 a year versus studying for $100,000, and I don't know how much it replaces, because if they're spending $100,000 to just study and design, I don't know how much it costs. So is there any analysis done for that kind of stuff?
Sure. So I think that there's a couple points to make here. One is that obviously the system has aged somewhat, and eventually the system would need to be replaced in chunks. This project is essentially replacing it before it's reached its end of life, but there's still no doubt that the end of life cycle is still to come in the future. We're just ahead of the game on this. And I think the other important piece to remember here is the piece that I'm always reminded of, is that this is a cooling shelter. The Cameron Senior Center is the Cameron Senior Center, but the cooling shelter serves the individual purpose of making sure that we're providing residents who need a cooling shelter, that atmosphere. So the downtime that has been experienced over the course of the last couple of years in the maintenance has been seen as an issue that's not yet in terms of a quality or a quantity type figure for what it means to the financial component of it. But yes, from the financial end of it, we are throwing thousands of dollars at it each year. Will it ever amount to $1 million? No, but it would be replaced eventually.
Okay. And this study, once it's done, whatever comes out of it will get fed into capital, right? Is that the process?
Yes, that is correct. And I do want to make it known that the Capital Planning Committee has tasked us with identifying and asking whoever the designer, the engineer for this project is, to identify at least anywhere from 3 to 5 potential avenues that we could take, always allowing energy conservation to be one of those, but also to kind of understand what a medium, small, and large project would look like. That way we can really make sure that financially we're spending our money appropriately.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Does anyone have any other questions regarding this first part?
I have a question, Hari. It's
Go
Heather.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was reviewing the backup, and the fire department roof only had backup for 73,000. Did I miss a page, or is that not the same amount that we're putting in the article?
You should be seeing what you're seeing on the screen. Are you seeing some other? Which file are you looking at? Can you tell me that?
In Dan's packet that came out with the 20 some attachments, there's a file. Article 2, final IFB, Roger. And if you click that, it's only 73,000.
Okay, can you hold on for that one that we just are going to wrap up the Cameron Senior Center, and then we'll come back. The next one is fire station anyway, fire station roof. Yeah, so anything else for the Cameron Senior Center before we move to fire station? Okay, so let's move to fire department. Roger, fire station roof replacement for $100,000. Heather, you want to continue?
Yeah, so I have that same question, like, how do we get from the backup we were given to the number that's in the article?
Dan? Oh, okay, go ahead, Eric.
Hi, everybody. So in an effort to try to save some funds on design, we developed these bid specifications in-house. Dan Britko, our deputy fire chief, Paul Fox, and I put together the IFB. This estimate is based on different conversations with local contractors. We did want to build some contingency into this just because, we did not use a designer. So that's where the $100,000 figure came. Anything obviously we don't use would be turned back. I think the fire department's had this on their capital plan for several years. And the hope is to get this work done before snow comes this year.
I guess I would follow up, and I don't know, and it's kind of embarrassing since I'm on capital, but do we normally allow that kind of stuff? Maybe Dan can tell us.
Well, this wasn't we didn't go out and seek bids yet. We haven't gone through that process. So this was an estimate that Eric, Paul, and Dan came up with in-house. And so I think there's a contingency here just in case, bids come in over asking at that point. So we usually don't have the design done in-house. So this is a little bit different.
Okay, so capital is okay with the difference between the two?
Yeah, capital approved these items, I believe it is 10-0 for all these. So yes, they were okay with it.
Eric.
I forgot one important part that'll answer Heather's question. So the bids will actually be back before town meeting. So the plan is to make a motion on the floor of town meeting to reduce it, hopefully, to the correct amount based on the low bid.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
Yeah. And just want to make sure that we recognize that this $100,000 is a ceiling, depending upon the actual, what we're going to vote is with the $100,000 as ceiling, but actual bids, the actual value of the approval will change based on the bids coming in between now and town meeting. Okay, anything else on the fire department? Okay. School department, $90,000 for schematic design and other costs for Blanchard School roof replacement. And any questions or comments or anything? If not, we can move to the next item. Town appropriate water enterprise $25,000 for Depot Street well design.
I have the same kind of question. I did listen to that capital meeting, but I kind of missed how we got from 250 to 25. I understand it's 10%, so it's the initial, but is that the logic there?
It's they're just requesting for design funds right now. So it's, design is usually about 10% of a project. So it's right in line with what they're asking from the quote from I and Bond.
Okay, so Tom Mahana's email or memo, it just took 25% off of that, or 10% off of that.
Yeah.
And put the 25 in. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what Steve felt comfortable asking for from capital.
Okay, so at capital, it was only asked for the 25.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And so do we want to vote on this motion before moving to the second motion?
Capital voted all at once. If you
okay,
let's look better if you do. Just
okay,
on the motions.
That's okay. Actually, I see that down the line it says one line for all of them. Okay, so the second motion involves appropriate $470,000 to capital stabilization fund. It moves from free cash to capital stabilization fund. And Dan, can you explain the rationale behind this?
Sure. As everybody knows, the sale of 63 Main Street is in progress, and it was always the intention of the select board in the town to replenish the capital stabilization funds, over a period of 3 years. So we figured with the sale of the property, we just replenish all those funds now and put the stabilization back to where it was.
Okay. And where would that put us in terms of free cash? Is we're still healthy in the free cash perspective?
Compared to last year, yes, we are still healthy in the free cash. With all, I'll bring that up really quickly. With all these articles here that are in the warrant as of right now, we have certified free cash of 5.3 million. After expending the 889,000, we're at 4.4 million.
From my history, that's a healthy one.
Yeah, and last year we were certified at 3.3 million, so we're in much better position.
Okay, I am content with my questions about the second motion. Anyone else have any other questions about the second motion?
Dan, what would that put the stabilization fund at?
Okay, bring this back up here. So this column right here is the capital stabilization fund. Let me zoom in so you can actually see it. So if we plug in the 470,000, it'll put us at $1,045,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that's the intended target for the capitalization balance, capital stabilization fund balance.
There's not really an intended target, but it's replenishing the funds that we took out to purchase 63 Main Street. So
okay. Got it. Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion towards this article? Anybody can do it, except me.
So moved. It's Christina.
Thanks, Christina. Anybody want? Okay, thank you. Okay, so going down, Hari, aye. Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Thank you. Before COVID, we couldn't stop people from making motions, by the way. Okay, so moving on to, let me see where in the agenda was the next one. Article 3. Amend the general bylaws to establish revolving fund for electric vehicle charging stations. Okay, so this is just having a fund, no financial implications by establishing a fund, correct, Dan? Except that in future we will use it for financial purposes, but establishing fund itself doesn't move money.
right, well, establishing a revolving fund is actually two steps. First, we have to revise the bylaw, then we set the expenditure limit. So it might make sense to vote on both just because they're interrelated.
Okay. And the Article 4, do you want to scroll up just for the next article? Okay, so recycling revolving and electric station revolving. Okay, so I know that we'll vote for that, both of them together. Recycling revolving, what was the previous limit?
Was $20,000.
Okay, and does anyone have any other questions?
Sorry, I do.
Yes, Heather.
Who's in charge of the recycling revolving account? Is that the commission? The recycling commission?
Yes, they're the ones who deposit money and expend from it.
So I was curious why the electric vehicle wasn't through the green energy committee or whatever. I don't know the exact name, instead of the town manager's office.
Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, so they supported the project, but the funding, when people charge their vehicles, will come through our office and be deposited. I think the Recycling Commission years and years ago set it up so that they sold their bins themselves. I don't know whether that'll continue that way, but this, this is not the way this is going to be set up.
So for me, Heather, for me, administration is always the town manager's office. Governance is always the boards and committees. I would see them doing the handling the payments and receipts. That in my mind, that goes easier than any other way.
I have a question on the EV revolving line. Do we know where the $10,000 came from, since this is being set up for the first time? Just understanding the rationale behind the number would be helpful.
Jody?
I think I think Eric did put put a memo in your packet if you were able to see it, but this is basically, once these charging stations are in place, we will be determining the charge for people to plug in and charge their vehicle, and that funding will come from that. And then we will deposit it into the revolving account and then use those funds to pay costs that we have with the National Grid and so on. So we don't have any money yet, but we hope to get money when people start plugging in their vehicles.
And we're comfortable that $10,000 as a ceiling is enough for that activity?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, Eric did put a memo in your packet, but I think he was estimating around $4,000.
Yeah,
give or take.
I see that as the cost side of things, yeah.
So we can always change this at a future town meeting, but we wanted to at least get this fund established so that as money was coming in, we had a place to put it.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, the other thing besides the costs of operating them is actually maintenance. I do see these costs in my current job, so I think that is a reasonable number to leave in there. As you know, I don't know how many we're planning on having in town, but there is definitely something to be said about having some room for the maintenance cost.
Are these all on separate meters? Utility meters?
Eric?
Yes, Heather, they will all be separately metered, and there's actually 12 dual head in 3 different locations. If you didn't see in the memo, it's at WA, Town Hall, and Abbott School.
So do we incur any seed money or capital money, upfront money to initial set up these meters?
So the grants we received were approximately 235,000 that covered all of the construction cost in the first year of the network fees. The annual network fee for all 24 ports is approximately $4,600.
Got it. So that's all came through grants.
Yeah, everything for the construction and first year fees.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Dennis.
How are you? How are you? Long time no see.
Okay. So Dennis, we are on the Article 4 debt, like spending limits for recycling and electrical vehicle charging stations.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? We are about to go for a motion.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions for Article 3 and Article 4? Okay. So we want to vote together on Article 3 and 4. So someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Jake. Anybody want to second it?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so going down, Hari, aye. Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Okay. And we'll move to Article 5. Establish health insurance trust fund and transfer the balance in the health insurance stabilization fund to the insurance trust fund. Okay. So pull up the document for it. Does anyone want to, Dan, is there any preamble or we just directly go into the Q&A? Jody?
Yes, so you were posted with the select board and you heard a presentation on this, and the board voted to bring this forward to town meeting. So this allows us to establish the trust fund. And then we are also asking if the town meeting wants to go this method, that we also transfer our health stabilization into the trust fund. Heather did ask a lot of questions, which I thought were good questions. So I answered them and we put materials in your packet. I do have our insurance broker in the background. If you have any specific questions, I can't answer. But basically, the reason that we're going to do this is to reduce both the town and employee costs. Will be eligible for different rebates. We'll have more control over our plan. And as long as we have trustees in place who are equipped to manage this, I see us saving significant dollars moving forward. So that's in a nutshell why we're planning to do this.
Anyone have any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Dennis. Start off.
Just two for Jody. The first question is, so as a trust fund, this will be run as sort of a independent board of appointees. So who gets appointed to that board? And second of all, and just this is just to make sure there's a firewall on this trust, right? There can't be any transfers to anything else other than the trust. Am I correct on that?
Yes, yeah, the trustees, what I'm going to recommend if this passes town meeting is that, you know, it's the position, not the person, because people do move on, hopefully, you know, not soon, but town manager, I put a memo in your packet, or at least I answered Beth's questions, but yeah, so town manager, treasurer, collector, HR director, FinCom reps, select board rep, and I'm missing one. Who am I missing, Dan?
IAC rep.
Insurance. Yeah.
Insurance Advisory Committee rep, thank you. We will be closely working with Jesse, our accountant, and Dan. But basically this health insurance stabilization would begin the balance in there. And the reason why we need a trust fund is if we have a bad year, meaning really high, a couple of really high claims, this will help us offset a huge increase, which we would have to pay anyway with Blue Cross. And we are going to start meeting next week to start determining what we think is a minimum fund balance, and we will bring policies and procedures to the select board after, if this is approved, and also we plan to report to them however often they want us to. But right now, when we renew with Blue Cross, they have typically charged us about 5% extra just because they can, and that can equate to 600,000, give or take. And we've been paying that for a couple of years. This way, you know, we will be managing our own health insurance with Blue Cross, but we will, when we have a good year, the money would stay in the trust or reduce the cost of our health insurance. And then we have stop loss coverage. We haven't determined yet whether it should be at claims over 100,000, 125 or 150. We'll start working on that. But I just think this will give the town a lot more opportunity to control the cost. And our hub agent, who is here, if you have specific questions, he estimated if we had done this the past couple of years, we could have saved over $2 million. I've been trying to analyze this for several years, but I have not been able to get the right data. So I think it makes sense for us. Our insurance advisory committee also voted in favor, and it'll give us a lot more control over our health insurance in the future.
So one last question. What is the source of the contributions? What's the source of the revenue to fund this?
Well, it's premiums that are paid by the employee and by the town.
Okay.
So right now it's approximately $10 million a year. So we're hoping that that figure will be better controlled. If we do vote to go to this right now, we have a 4.9% increase for Blue Cross, and this would bring it down to a 2.5 is what we're beginning to estimate right now, which obviously impacts both the town and the employee.
Okay, thank you.
And Ingrid?
Jody, could you elaborate a little bit more about the stop loss insurance and the kind of price differential at the different levels? Because that's obviously if there's a catastrophic, which we hope never happens. That's one of the biggest risks of self-insurance.
Yeah, I will let Mark Cristicelli speak to that. There is something in your packet that showed the different kind of levels, but I'd like to have him speak to that because I'm still, kind of learning all of this, so.
Sure, thank you. So typically for all our groups that are partially self-insured, we do a lot to, claims analysis to try to determine the right deductible. Typically for a group of your size, we would see minimally $150,000 deductible. All the exhibits we did before were, on low risk. We were showing based on $100,000 deductible, but we, each year that gets reassessed. We look at potential large claims. That really helps us to determine what the best deal would be for a group, which deductible. So it can change from year to year. And we use a lot of actuarial data up into the decision date to determine what the appropriate deductible is. So just as an example, for the town, I think maybe last complete year, we might have had 8 claimants that exceeded $100,000 level. I don't think we had one that exceeded $300,000 level. So, that information and the totals of those claims are used to determine the best deductible, how much, fixed costs you'd have to pay versus how much you would have to pay based on the size of the deductible. And we do this for all groups. I mean, the highest deductible I have out there is, for a very large group is $275,000. And the lowest deductible I have out there for a group of under 100 lives that decided to be partially self-insured is $75,000. But, just looking at your group, probably the sweet spot, if I had to make a decision today, would probably be $150,000 deductible for your group, based on what I see for diagnosis of potential claims for the coming plan year.
Questions?
Is it deductible per group or per
individual? Yep.
Per individual? So I thought I would ask that question, but now per individual or per case? Like, let's say if I've done one ailment in February and another ailment in November, would
Per
both of them?
subscriber, so you could break both legs today, have a heart attack 6 months from now. Not that I wish this upon anybody, but all those claims for those individuals are totaled up during the plan year.
Okay.
All right.
I think Jeff had first, and then Jeff, Tom, Heather, and Dennis.
If I could just, from like a program standpoint, when the management switches, could you talk a little bit about what controls and responsibilities are passed when the management, like, if we're going to be managing, which controls do we get and which responsibilities do we inherit?
Well, as Jody mentioned, the trustees are appointed. They're basically the ultimate responsibility. So, they take a lot of guidance from Blue Cross Blue Shield and ourselves on how to set rates each year. So ultimately, they're making the decision on how to set rates. Once those rates are set, the town must put in their percentage of the working rate towards the trust each month, as the employees put their percentage, and that amount gets put in the trust too each year. Over time, usually there's an aspirational goal as the trust grows. Different things can be done with that money, anywhere from a premium holiday to maybe mitigating a future rate increase, hypothetically 4 years from now. Let's say we were running a little rough and the recommendation is to go with an 8% rate increase, but you have $1.6 million in your trust. And you may decide, well, you know what, we've got a little bit of wiggle room there, so we don't need to go with an 8%. We can go with a 6% rate increase. So ultimately, the trustees, there is a trust document set up, but they're the ones that make determination as to how rates are set and what's done with funds in the trust. I think a question earlier was, you know, what controls are there on the money in the trust. That money has to be used for the health plan.
Can I ask just one follow-up? Is that if we move to a managed plan, are there any, I guess both sides, are there any restrictions or any added flexibilities in terms of network access for members?
No, I mean, typically when we do this, we do mirror the plan design you have today. The network is mirrored. So it would be Blue Cross Blue Shield's plan design as you have it today. It would be the provider network as you have it today. As far as, you know, flexibility with plan designs and changing networks, I believe that's all collectively bargained. Jody probably can answer that question better than I could. But, you know, again, how this is presented is matching everything as it is today.
Okay, thanks.
Jody?
Sure.
Yeah, so just to give an example, I mean, during COVID, particularly last year, we knew that people were not using their health insurance as they normally were. And so I did approach Blue Cross Blue Shield about a rebate, and they resisted that for several months, but then eventually they did give us a $250,000 rebate. But if we're controlling this ourselves, then that would just be money that stays in the town coffers, and the employees pay, you know, in their coffers too. But right now we have no control over anything like that. When Blue Cross has a good year, or because we didn't use their plan a lot or everybody was healthy, they pocket the excess funds. This will allow the town to keep those excess funds in this trust. So for example, we've been budgeting every year 8% for the past several years in health insurance. We may be able to reduce that. And that is where the savings is for the town. And if the trust grows to whatever beyond the minimum, as Mark said, that we've established, then we reduce the premium increase for the town and the employee, but the town pays 60 to 65%. So that's significant.
Yeah, well, let me just ask a quick follow-up. Maybe I misunderstood. So apart from the financial, are we stuck with the standard BCBS commercial network? Or, you know, let's say a series of clinics opens in our town that don't have commercial Blue Cross Blue Shield. If we are managing our own, are we able to request that BCBS include specific people within their network so that our plan can use it, for example? Or are we restricted from certain elements of the contracted network?
That's a great, good question, Jeff. I think it's probably more of system constraints that would allow that, but that wouldn't stop you from offering a PPO plan design, which allowed for out-of-network coverage. And you could, you know, they might be able to design that out-of-network to cover those facilities possibly different than they would the normal out-of-network facilities, but they don't have a contract with them. I think from a system, they couldn't just add them to your HMO network and have them be covered, be it a fully insured platform as you are now, or going to a partially self-insured platform. They wouldn't. Blue Cross couldn't. Other TPAs might be able to do that.
Okay, so either way, no restrictions. We can redesign based on the changing healthcare landscape in the town.
I would say from a provider network, there might be system constraints. From a plan design standpoint, you have more flexibility with what you do with your plan design, you know, certain within reasons to what they can program into their system. But for a large degree, it's your plan. But I think when it comes to plan design changes, I do think that's collectively bargained. I don't think the trustees could make a decision just to change a plan design, or, you know, by, you know, any other format where they could just change the plan design. But you do have some flexibility with the plan design. I just don't think from the provider network, Blue Cross Blue Shield system is set up where they could take out of network providers that they don't have contracts with and cover them as in network providers.
Yeah. Okay. No, cool. That was great. Thanks.
Yes.
Tom?
Yeah, mine's more of a comment than question. I would like to take a second to applaud the town for looking for a creative way to control the uncontrollable. Over the past 16 years that I know of, this has been one of the biggest problems is health insurance costs getting out of control, and it impacts the ability to fund every other department and every other ask. And it impacts every one of us as residents, all of the employees. And I think this is a good example of outside the box thinking of a way to start to try to control that and still provide the same level of benefit for our employees. So I want to take a second to thank Jody and the rest of the team for that.
Thank you. Heather?
Okay, I have a small series of questions, but I'm going to start with the expected claims that were in that spreadsheet we just saw of 12,650,000. Where did that number come from?
Mark, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So that it's we take the past claims and claims as current as through August. We do our own estimates as to what your expected claims would be for the coming year. The most recent plan year completed, you're running right about probably 11.5 million, up till current.
So one of my concerns with this is that we, have heard that people aren't going to the doctor and they're delaying care.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess I'd really rather see something like a 3 or 4 year average as opposed to last year's when claims are down.
Yep. Yeah, we actually do look at that. So when I said we look at past claims, we don't go back 4 years because those claims frankly are too old and not credible. But we will look at, probably the past we look at the past 2.5 years. And, so that's taking into consideration.
Somebody's giving feedback. I don't know if that is.
Can you put Ingrid on mute?
But Dan, could you please pull up the spreadsheet? I believe we have a spreadsheet that shows 3 years, and I think that's where Mark came up. If we had, gone to this, we would have saved 2.4 million. So he did look at, I thought it was 3 years. So
yeah, you'll see some different periods in here, Heather. Because we just had some different periods to look at, and you'll see some periods are better than others. And I'll just pick on column D here, for instance. You look at, that was one of your higher periods of time. So 12.2 million. Of course, about 609,000 were claims above $100,000 deductible level. So those would be claims in that particular instance you wouldn't pay. So even in that year, so that you had 12.2 million of claims, you would have ended up paying about 11.6 million, even in that rough year. You'll notice in column A, that's a very conservative estimate there on the $13 million of claims. That year is for this prospective year. So it's really taking kind of a conservative approach at looking at those claims. That's more Blue Cross Blue Shield's projection of what they expect claims to be for the coming year. Typically, they project much higher than you actually come in at, though.
Okay. So let me just ask another question on the plan designs. I think I got this from the last question. Blue Cross, you're just buying a plan that Blue Cross has already developed. There's not going to be any negotiating on you know, deductibles or co-pays or cost to doctors, anything like that, correct?
This was matching exactly what you have now.
And Heather, just for clarification, it isn't Blue Cross that comes up with that. It's the town that has the plan, and then different carriers put in a quote to supply that. So they don't dictate to us. We basically tell them what we're looking for. But we're not looking to change the plan right now. We're just looking to become self-insured, partially self-insured, so we have better control over it. And we have changed the plan, I believe 3, maybe 4 times in the past 13 years, but that's not what we're asking to do right now, so.
Right. Can you just remind me on the plan, do they have any deductible at this point?
No, we're not a deductible plan. I mean, you know, there might be some deductibles on the value which is offered, but but we're not in a deductible plan.
Okay, and so then my last comment is just on the, it's difficult for me to grasp pushing forward, even though I completely see the benefit of this and I would support it. I struggle with, you know, we're not, once we do this, it's gone and there's really no control other than that trustee board, which would be largely made up of people using the plan. So, you know, I feel like there's no parameters, there's no control over parameters from anyone as a taxpayer once this gets approved.
I completely disagree with you, Heather. First of all, the select board would be appointing the trustees, and we would answer to the select board. And as I mentioned, I have suggested a FinCom member and a select board member be a part of it. But I mean, these are the people that you trust to run the finances of this town. And so I completely disagree with your statement that we're going to not have controls in place to make this happen. I think that the danger is that if personnel change through the years and people take risks and they don't keep a substantial or whatever the number we decide is appropriate in this fund to balance the risk, that would be where the town could get into trouble. So, but I think you've got Christine Collins and me, as I said, and a couple of board members. IAC has a right to be a part of this with Jesse, Dan in the background. I mean, they could be on it too if they really want to. I have no issue with that. And then, of course, we'll be audited. But this will go through the processes just like everything else. So, you know, we haven't taken the time to write all the policies and set all the parameters because we don't know if this is going to pass. And if it does pass, we will spend the next couple of months getting all that put together and take it to the select board for their approval.
Any questions, Heather?
I don't think so. I just, you know, I feel like I can't put my fingers on, you know, guaranteeing that the town's going to save money from an operating perspective.
We'll come back after Dennis if you have any. Would that be okay?
Yep, I'm done. That's my last comment.
Okay. After Dennis, we'll go to Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Harry. So I guess for Jody, just first question would be to Jody, the contribution to this, would this be a budget appropriation each year to the trust fund as part of, and then it will be a contribution from the employee unions? Is that how this is going to be funded?
Well, the first funding would come from the health insurance stabilization, which we have in the second part of this article, because it's sitting there to help stabilize health insurance. We've never had to use it. We started it several, I don't remember, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more now. So that would start, but the contributions basically, instead of paying Blue Cross the premiums, we're paying the trust the premiums. So the employee's still paying their premiums and the town is still paying their premiums, but it's going to the trust, and then the trust will pay Blue Cross based on utilization. Whereas right now, we're just paying them. It doesn't matter whether we use it or not, they get the premium at the beginning of the year. And as I said, they have been tacking on 4 or 5% every year just because they can. And we are not, we cannot get rebates for drugs, and you can see what those estimates are that we will be getting back. We're not eligible for that right now. So it goes to Blue Cross.
Yeah,
So
but-
we're trying to put the town in the driver's seat.
Good.
And I believe that will help control our costs. Neshoba Tech High School is a partially self-funded insurance plan. There are many municipalities and school districts that have done this. And the only time they could ever get in trouble, and according to Mark, he's only aware of one in all their years, is because they let their balance get too low, because they wanted to use those funds for other purposes. And we need to establish what we're comfortable with, and we have a history of that. You know, and I just want to remind everybody that we just went through one of the worst years we've ever been. And the town came out in really great shape. And why? Because we know what we're doing. We have great financial policies in place. We've got a lot of good people on boards like you all that help us to come up with the right decisions for the town. And I don't see that changing. If we didn't have that, I would never recommend this, but I think we're leaving money on the table, padding Blue Cross's pockets, and I would rather have that money in the town for our own needs.
Yeah, no, your point is well taken. And I was trying to address Heather's concern. I mean, the way that you will track the activity in this fund is basically through the appropriations that you would be putting into the health insurance fund. Would be seeing that, so would be able to find out what's actually happening. Am I correct? Yeah. So the other question I have is, and this is to Michael, I guess, two of them. Is there any pooling? Is this fund going to be pooled with any outside group at all in any context? And has there been, and will the funds be invested as well?
Mark, I think that's for Mark, right?
I think you meant Mark, but I can answer that, Dennis. No, we did look at joining a couple of other towns last year, but honestly, I wasn't comfortable with it because they were not comparable towns to Westford. And I felt they had a lot to gain from us, and I didn't think we had a lot to gain from them. But I have been in those types of situations before in my other towns, and some of them work quite well. But the second part is, yes, these funds will be invested. And as you know, Christine Collins invests our funds now. Matter of fact, our OPEB had a wonderful year and really took a chunk out of our OPEB liability, but these will be invested just as all the other town funds are.
And the union's on board, I take it, with everything?
The unions are on board because they don't like the significant increases that we've had. And I've jumped plan to plan to plan through the years to save us 500,000 here, 500,000 there, but it takes a lot of work. And I think there are things that don't work out well, such as mental health needs. A lot of times you don't get the same mental health provider that you had, or, you know, chiropractic or whatever, and people have been very frustrated and dissatisfied, particularly with Fallon. So we've tried to commit to one vendor and figure out a different way to control our health insurance costs. If we don't like this, we can always go back to paying the full amount to Blue Cross and letting them you know, pad their pockets. We can do that, but I think this is worth trying, and I think I think the town will be pleasantly surprised with the outcome.
Very good. Thank you very much.
And I just want to mention the retirees are all on this too. So it's not just our employees, and our retirees do support this also.
Jeff, and then we go back to Heather.
Yeah, so I would speak quickly. Also, I'll just make it quick to two things. So in the plans that I've seen like this, I think there are two things that I see happen, especially when they're managed properly. And the first is that they actually can turn into a self-perpetuating healthcare fund, which Jody, you sort of like maybe hazily alluded to, but you know, as these grow, there is the potential to have like a great year when they're invested, to have years like last year, even where, people saw, 14% and up in some of these healthcare trusts around the country. And when those kind of things happen, if you leave the money invested, you don't necessarily have to, dip people's premiums and healthcare costs. If you leave it stable, the plan can turn into something that self-perpetuates. And then ultimately, Heather, back to your point where you talk about having benefit to taxpayers, there is the potential that the taxpayers ultimately can see benefit too if the fund can self-perpetuate itself, rather than just created a fully subsidized system. So I think there's give and take in a lot of those areas, and I think both municipalities and companies that I've worked with that have done stuff like this, again, back to Jody's point, that when they're properly managed and they don't use the money for other stuff, these are, I think, really efficient plans.
Heather and Tom.
Jody just said something that piqued my interest. She said you can go back. If that happens, what happens to the trust? Is there must be revocable, and then does that money go back to free cash? How does that work?
Jody?
Yeah, I can't answer that question, Heather, but here's what I would think, and then Mark can certainly answer it, but that money would be used to pay the premium. So it wouldn't just disappear, but we have a $10 million annual health insurance premium. So if there's $1 million in there, in my opinion, and Mark, maybe you have a different answer, but if there was $1 million or $2 million in this trust and the town decided not to, that would be used to pay our portion of the premium for that year. But, we've kept a health insurance stabilization, so perhaps a decision would be made, put some in stabilization and pay down the premium with the rest. I can't imagine, doing something different, but Mark, I don't know if you have a different answer.
Yeah, if our attorney was here, he'd answer it better than I would, but very simply, chapter 32B governs this. So whatever goes in the trust, the percentage the employees put in, the employees own. The percentage the town puts in, the town owns. So to Jody's point, if you were to go back to a fully insured contract, you would take out, part of that would be used to offset employees, maybe first contribution into the fully insured plan, and the town would use that portion to allocate to that portion of the town's responsibility for fully insured premium. But whatever money goes in, the employees own their percentage, the town owns their percentage, and 32B really controls all that.
Tom?
So just to touch on the point of the trust being constituted of really a lot of users of the plan, I actually think that's a really good thing because they're incentivized to keep this stable. It would be very easy to say that they're going to say, well, let's fund a 0% increase this year because there's money there. But they're going to know down the road within a couple of years that that's going to turn into a 20% increase that they have to fund, because this is the way it's being set up is, that's where the funding has to go through. That there won't be additional funding. I don't think that would be approved from any other source than this initial deposit. Everything else is going to be from insurance contributions, whether it's employees or the town's contribution. But I think they're incentivized to manage it well, to try to really stabilize, keep that increase minimalized, and get rid of the spikes. So I do trust that we will have resident input, but also the fact that the employees that are in charge of the finances are going to look after it too.
So I have one thing for Jody and Dan. So what is your plan to educate the town before going for the voting, because it's pretty tough subject. It took a while for me to understand it. So do you guys have a plan for it? Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, we'll make a brief presentation, but I think we will have, as I said, Mark will be there in case there's questions I can't answer. We made a brief presentation to the Select Board and Finance Committee the other night, but I think it makes sense. And I think, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I think we have proven that, we do understand the town's finances, and this is something that will, I believe, reduce premiums, which allows more money for other budgets. And I think the taxpayers will be happy that we found a way, or we believe we found a way to help. Because other than the trust fund balance, if you look at our expected savings there, that's a lot of extra revenue or extra resources for the town to use at times when, we don't have enough to go around. So again, we got to have a healthy balance, whatever we determine that should be. And of course, we bring that to the board. But after that, these are funds that we're not going to tie up with health insurance. So but we'll see. If taxpayers don't want to do it, we'll continue on with what we're doing now. So.
Okay, thanks for the explanation, Jody. Does anyone have any other questions before we vote for the recommendation on this article? Okay. Can someone make a motion for the first and second motions of Article 5?
So
I
moved.
would move. Oh, God.
Okay,
I'll
going
second that.
down. Yep, thanks, Tom. Hari, in favor. Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Moving to Article 6, approve funding for energy savings and performance audit. Okay. Any questions, debate? Or Dan, is there any preamble for it? Anybody want to give an outlet?
Paul, were you going to speak to this, or Eric?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it. So essentially, this article is asking for $75,000 that'd be used for a break fee. And I want to make that clear that the intention behind this is that we won't ever need it. This is essentially a study for a consultant to come in, do an audit to all of our buildings in relationship to energy conservation. And if we choose to move forward with some of the projects that they suggest moving forward with, we'll never need to pay this $75,000. The way the energy performance contract works, it's essentially like that old saying, it takes money to make money. And this is just another avenue for how to implement a bunch of capital projects all up front. It's an innovative way of using financial operation monies over the next 20 years to come right up front on day one to invest in all these capital projects. And a smaller way of thinking about it is that if somebody were to give me right now, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million, I could implement LEDs across all town and school buildings, and we would save a lot of operational costs in the future. The thing is, it's kind of tough to always come by that money. So although it would pay for itself in the future, like I said, I don't have the money up front. The long-term picture here is that there will be an avenue to have all that money up front to implement all these projects. So Article 6 in specific reference is just to ask to move forward with an energy consultant to identify a lot of energy performance projects that we could go after that would help save a lot of operational costs in the future. If we choose to move forward, we will not be on the hook for the $75,000. it will be wrapped into a greater project, so to speak.
Christina, Dennis, Christina first.
Um,
Dennis.
I just wanted to also make the comment, Paul, I know when this was being discussed in capital, we had talked about incorporating an analysis of solar on all the buildings. That's still part of this, correct?
Correct. There's a lot of major and all renewable type options are always on the table. We have a lot of interest in a lot of solar on many buildings anyways. But yes, solar, LEDs, all my HVAC systems, even doors, all the way down to small things like weather stripping to make sure that the buildings are as tight as they can be. Everything all encompassing related to energy conservation measures will be included in this project.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the question.
Thanks.
Dennis.
Yeah, Paul, just I'm kind of a literal guy here. So if we're appropriating $75,000, where is it going? Into some sort of an escrow account or what?
Dan can probably help me with this a little better, but from where I needed to go as a literal guy is just a coffer just in case if for some reason the town does not choose to move forward with future projects in the future.
Right, so this would be considered a special article. So this 75,000 would be set up in an account, and then we can either apply it to future projects, or if the town chooses not to approve those future projects at town meeting, we pay the audit fee for this. The people who come in and give us the plan.
All right, thank you.
Heather, why don't you go ahead? After that, I will go.
I looked it up. So has the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee weighed in on this at all?
Absolutely. Oh,
Eric? Sorry, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I was just going to say, both Eric and myself have been working very closely with the Energy Committee on this. In fact, I think that I saw Matt on earlier. In fact, I think that his hand is raised. Maybe he may want to chime in too at some point here. But yes, they are definitely very well aware. And I would, if possible, if the committee's open to it, I'd give Matt an opportunity to maybe represent the Energy Committee here.
Just bringing Matt in right now.
Hey, Matt, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Matt Riegert, 8 Castle Road, and a member of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. This is a much bigger project that Paul and Eric and the committee and I have been working on for over a year. And the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee is in full support of moving forward with this project and is very excited about the potential opportunities that could come from this, including significant investments in renewable energy on town buildings that would serve as an example for members of the community and our task of moving towards net zero by 2050. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. So let's say we invite them and they made a assessment and say 20 million worth of capital projects. What part of that $20 million is the town on the hook for? Or can we do partial of their recommendations, etc.?
All right. So I think that initially the basic rule of thumb is that a lot of these projects are designed to encompass what 20 years of savings could look like. So when you combine a series of projects, you start to get extra cash flow. And an example, again, is looking at an LED project. LEDs typically have payback periods within a few years. So over the next, let's call it a 3-year payback on an LED project, over the next 17 years, you'll have additional savings. We can use those additional savings on a project that doesn't have the same amount of payback. Let's call that one a 17-year payback, right? I'd be able to use that towards that one instead. So a lot of these projects are designed to ultimately cost the taxpayers $0 at the end of this project, and that they'll simply be offset by future operational expenditures that we would have used traditionally. But now that we've done the energy conservation efforts, we'll be able to use that money that we would have spent on utility bills to pay back this project. We have had a series of a couple companies come in and look at it, and we have seen projects anywhere near upwards of $10 million at, again, the cost is $0 to the taxpayers for this. I see Eric has his hand up too.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so I was just going to add, really, this is kind of a step one in the process of exploring this performance contract. We actually are working right now with an owner's agent the select board approved the contract for, and it's Green Beacon Solutions, and she's guiding us through the performance contracting process. The request for qualifications was actually already released, and we hope to have bid responses on the 18th of October. Once upon this audit is complete, we're going to get essentially a menu of different projects the town can select from, depending on how many years we would like to finance the projects over. A lot of towns, as Paul mentioned, size the projects to not require a debt exclusion or an increase in property taxes.
Because the town doesn't need to pay any of the upfront costs, is it correct?
So essentially, we provide all of the financing, but we have guaranteed savings through the contract with the ESCO company. So essentially what we're paying for utilities at the time of the performance contract stays the same. We don't pay any more over the life of the project.
Okay. To be honest, I understand the concept, right? It's pay as you go for your maintenance and replacement costs of related to energy. I probably need to sit with one of you guys to understand more about it. Probably that's maybe also irrelevant, but yeah, that's where I am. My head is that I do not compute the whole lot of it right now. Okay. Any other questions regarding this one? Heather?
I was just going to suggest that if you wanted to have more time to learn about this, we could defer and vote before the meeting.
Well, that's me, right? If everyone else has a different perspective than I do, then there is no need to hold up and vote. It's me versus the whole finance committee, and I think these two are two different things. If all of us are on the same board, then they probably should explain more. What it means is, if you don't have full thought in your head, you should ask the questions to them. Tom?
Just to make sure I understand. So if we're paying, we'll call it $1 million a year right now for our gas bill, right? And a project to replace boilers, let's say with high efficient boilers, is going to cost whatever over 20 years. It just means we're still going to pay $1 million for our utility bill, even though there would be savings. That's basically what it would be. Like, there'd still be $1 million budgeted, but the savings would go to pay the project. Is that essentially the concept?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, essentially, it won't be going directly to the utilities. Part of it will be going to the utilities, and then the rest will be going back towards paying towards the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So just a clarification on the same thing, Tom. Thanks for asking the question. I wanted to ask that question, but I didn't come up with a way to ask that. So every project has a payback period. So in this case, we have $100,000 for gas thing. The project has a payback period of 5 years. So for the next 5 years, anything over the utility bills, we'll pay that to the project. And then the 5 years, we continue to pay the utility bills, but not for the project. Would that how it works? Basically, after the payback period, we will pay smaller continuing costs and not bigger costs.
Yes, as I understand it, yes, that is that is correct. If you want to run me through it again, but yes, that's essentially it.
Okay.
If I can give another quick example from one of the companies that did the audit in our town, they, again, brief, quick audit. They came up with really high scratch numbers. And essentially they're saying, look, over the next 20 years, we think that we can save you $500,000 each year on your energy savings bills if you implement A, B, C, D projects. So if you go forward and implement A, B, C, D projects, you're going to save $500,000 on your utility savings. But those projects are going to cost a lot of money up front. We're going to go through this bonding. I believe it's a bonded opportunity project that will bring all that money up front for us on year one. That way we can see those savings in our operational costs over the next 20 years. And yes, we'll continue to pay our utilities, but they'll be much less because again, they're guaranteed savings. And then that rest of the money will be going back towards paying towards that upfront cost of the money.
Got it. And all these projects that they recommend will go through the capital finance budgeting process.
That is a good question. Eric, I see Eric's hand jumping. So
Eric, please go ahead.
So I think I already kind of mentioned it, but this is step one. So if at special town meeting, this audit fee is approved, that just essentially lets us move forward with the audit process over, say, the next 6 months. They'll provide us with the complete audit. And at that point, we'll be bringing back that total information and the list of projects, likely back to the finance committee and select board, and likely the school committee as well, since a large portion of the projects will be in school buildings. So this isn't the last time you see this. This is kind of the seed money to get the project off the ground. And you will have a lot of opportunities to have questions for projects that are proposed related to this, which will have to go back for a future town meeting vote.
Okay, Dennis?
Very simple question. If we're so confident that we're going to get a savings down the road from upfront expenses, are these consultants willing to enter into a penalty clause if we don't?
Yes, and matter of fact, they do enter into guaranteed savings accounts. So they'll have to justify if we end up saving more than what they estimated, that's great for us. If we end up saving less, they have to prove to us why we're saving less. If we go and install a bunch of really inefficient systems in our building, they'll point that as a figure. But if they don't have anything to point that to, then they'll be on the hook for writing the town of Westford a check for those missed guaranteed savings. And that's part of the benefit of having our owner's agent right now with us, because she's going to help us negotiate, making sure that each item along the way is as in the favor for the town as it can be.
Well, that's pretty good. And if you can do that, that's the first time in my recollection of town government somebody's been able to hook that kind of a contract. Good job and good luck.
Eric?
Yeah, so I'll just add, so performance contracting has been around the Commonwealth for already many years. It's a highly regulated process. There's a state statute that governs the request for qualification and the request for proposal process. So there are already a lot of safeguards and protections in place to protect the municipalities.
Just a clarification. Earlier I said I was not ready. I did not understand, but now I fully understand. Thanks for explaining and Tom asking the right question. Does finance committee sees any other discussion, any of the questions that you need to ask before we recommend or move for a voting process?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Can somebody make a motion to Christina?
I move that we recommend Article 6 to approve funding for an energy savings performance audit.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Okay. Hari, aye. Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Matt, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you all for the support on all the projects.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so moving on to Article 7, authorize Bryan Place extension improvements.
Actually, Burn Place extension improvements. This is a betterment that Paul Starrett brought forward to the Capital Planning Committee. Now, a betterment is a capital improvement to the public way that's done by the residents. So the residents are actually paying for this. We're just fronting the money up front, and they pay interest back on the amount we initially put up there. So it's a very small section of road that they're improving here. It's unaccepted. So, once we get them through the updates and the street acceptance plans, the plan would be to go and move forward to a future town meeting to accept this little stretch of road.
Okay. Any questions or comments or discussion regarding this? Okay. Can someone make a motion to Tom?
I move that we support Article 7 to authorize the Burn Place extension improvement betterment.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Ingrid. Roll call. Hari, aye. Christina,
Aye.
Jeff,
I,
Tom,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and Dennis.
Aye.
That concludes the special town meeting articles for Finance Committee consideration. And we move on to the 7:45 p.m. agenda item. Review FY25 financial reports, including closeout summary, state aid, and local revenue.
All right, so I'm just going to pull some reports up here. Just give a very brief overview of these. I apologize, these are kind of small, so I'm going to zoom in here as much as I can. And essentially, what we have here is the closeout summary. It's in your packets. The report that we send out each year to the Finance Committee kind of goes through and shows by department how much money we closed out each year. For the majority of the year, we did have a hiring and spending freeze on due to the pandemic. So people were very cautious with their spending, and we had many vacant positions within the town government this year. So at the end of the day, we end up closing out over 2.9 million to the general fund, which is the most we've done in quite a while. So
Dan?
that set us up in pretty good position. Yes.
Are you sharing anything?
Did that not turn on? My fault. Sorry, 1 second. Hey, sorry.
No problem.
How's that? Better?
Yep. We see
Okay.
small numbers.
Yep, just a small number. So, at the end of the day, it was 2.9 million that we ended up closing out. So if there's any questions on any particular line items, I'm happy to attempt to answer those here.
So I have one of the questions I had back in my mind about this is remember during the pandemic, our local revenue fell significantly, including motor vehicle excise tax.
Yes.
Where are we? What's the recent observations about that?
So I can show you how we did last year. They pulled up the local revenue report. So this sheet here, which is larger, it shows the actual that we collected here versus the budget last year.
Not bad.
So not bad considering the circumstances. Our local excise for the hotels and meals, they didn't quite meet the expectation here, and our investment income rates fell as well. They're very low right now. I'm sure you all know that. So those are three of the accounts that we had some issues with, but we're more than made up with it in other places. So we did have a positive impact to free cash when it's all said and done. Motor vehicles slightly above. Penalties and interest, we had some payoffs of properties.
That line item bothers me because we are collecting more penalties. Means, is it the previous penalties or the new penalties?
I think these were accrued over a long time. They were,
Okay, got it.
large payoffs that were completed, just happened to be during fiscal year 21. So I don't think the bulk was more people not paying. It was just happened to be a large payoff.
Usually
Oh.
when penalties increase, that's cause of a concern because of the healthy society kind of stuff. But
Right. I think we had some deferred tax payoffs and whatnot too, which, you know, that added up to this total. So it's not going to be recurring every year. I think around the 230 range is more reasonable.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, we did okay with the local revenue. We had some conservative estimates in there at the beginning of the year, which is good. So we didn't get ourselves into any trouble. And at the end of the day, we brought in 8.2 million versus a budget of 7.9. We closed out about 247,000 to free cash.
Any questions from finance committee, or do you guys want more detail, or how do you think?
Fine.
Okay.
Okay, and then you know, the other piece here was the state aid. It was a very unusual year because the governor didn't sign the budget until after we set our tax rate. So there were some variances here, which usually never happen on most of the state aid. So we did have you know, some changes from what was approved with the what we used to set the tax rate. So, which again has never happened before. So, you know, overall, like our chapter 70 stayed the same, but our charter tuition assessment changed quite a bit and our exemptions were low. So, and our veterans benefits actually went up. So we didn't have all this information at the time we set our budget. So we were comparing the, you know, what we actually received versus the budget that we put into a recap. But this year we're all set moving forward. We shouldn't see this again.
Thank you very much. And did we already talked about the local revenue?
Yep, that was the sheet we just brought up here. We had the $250,000 closeout.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move to the next item? Okay. FY22 financial update.
Great. Okay, I can make this one bigger. Oh, so this afternoon we actually had our new growth certified, which isn't reflected here, but we had 850,000. I just make this a little easier to see. 850,000 in the budget. I came at 870,000, so we exceeded that total, which is great. Yeah, for state aid, we have the actual budget that the state provide us in our financial model, so there's no changes there. Local revenue, we're still very early in the year. We haven't sent out our motor vehicle bills yet. They go out in February. We actually haven't received our first quarter local options for hotel or meals tax that will come in on September 30th. So I'm anxiously awaiting that information, which of course we'll share with you. I'll give Jody an update that she'll send out. But yeah, there's no real variances right now from what we had projected early on. Everything seems to be tracking well. And then down in the enterprise, I mean, even ambulance, we budgeted 850 through 2 months. We're tracking at 853,000. So no real red flags at this point.
Okay.
And then as far as expenses go, I do track the payroll week to week just to see, you know, how much we're accruing, and you know, we still have some vacant positions out there. So right now, our estimated closeout is about 243,000 from the town for that. And then for the town expenses, pretty exciting news. Our recycling tipping fees are actually generating revenue for the town. I think we just got a check in for August for $4,400 from Waste Management. So we went from, you know, paying upwards of $90 a ton about 18 months ago to actually receiving money now. So that's great news.
What caused the change though? Because last time when we met, it was really worrisome about the recycling fees being
That's right.
exponential, right? So now it's actually reverse. I'm curious to know. Then I'm thrilled, but I'm curious to know.
I've had numerous conversations with Eric about this, and it's, you know, we think it's lack of materials out there. It's very hard to buy certain products right now, new cars and, you know, everything like that. So I think people are trying to utilize the recycled materials more, so it's more of a market for it. So That's our take, but it's hearsay. But
Okay.
it's good news regardless.
It is.
Right, and that's yeah, there's no real changes. It's really early in the year. Health insurance, we're tracking pretty well. We might have about a $400,000 estimated closeout based on renewal. If we don't go self-insured, that's with a 4.9% renewal. So, you know, overall, no red flags. We're doing well, and yeah, I'll continue to update when we have meetings.
Okay. Do you know how school system is doing with their similar FY22? They are on track. They have any differences?
Yeah, I mean, school just started, so it's very hard to tell. So I didn't want to call up the new finance director and say, hey, how much you're closing out in September? So I didn't think that would be appropriate for me to do.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, give them till October.
Exactly, at least one more month.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions from committee? Okay, we will move to the next agenda item. Review draft timeline for 23 budget process.
Okay.
Okay, great. We're here on the 23rd, so we should probably start there. The select board is signing the warrant on Tuesday night. And actually, we have 2 more articles to review, which will have the information for Tuesday night. So it was suggested that we post jointly with them just to review those 2 articles if the FinCom is amenable to it. We get the information all at once. You know, we already got our free cash certification, as you know. October 7th, I think, is going to be our League of Women Voters warrant review for, and I do have to update this. I apologize. I should say October 16th for the special town meeting. I will update that.
Was the time confirmed on that yet? Is it morning or afternoon?
Jody, is that official yet?
So the select board are meeting tomorrow morning, and the moderator is asking for a 1 o'clock start. So the select board need to vote that. And once, if they do, then I will get that out to everyone again, so.
And it's the academic trustees field?
Yes, unfortunately, after we set the date, the schools determined that they have PSATs that morning, and they were concerned about the PA system. So we're looking to do it at 1.
Okay.
All right, so moving forward, we are working on the budgets right now. Worksheets have gone out. We started reviews. And we're targeting Tuesday, December 14th as a town manager budget presentation date. And then, of course, the finance committee after presentation, they tend to ask questions in writing, which we submit to department heads and get back. So to give them time, we're thinking of starting the budget reviews on Thursday, January 13th. And, you know, we picked the next 4 Thursdays to go through. And then as of right now, town meeting is on Saturday, March 26th. So that should give us plenty of time to review the budgets. And then we have a couple meetings to review the warrant articles for the annual town meeting. And of course, we do have to get that FinCom book to the printers by March 4th. So we'll be working on this during most of February to get that prepared.
Okay. Book your vacations outside those dates. Just kidding. Anybody have any questions or concerns on the timeline? Okay. Let's move on to proposed budget policy direction.
Here's the budget policy direction that Jody and I worked on to send out to you first and to the select board on Tuesday night, which is in the packet. So I won't read through it.
So I won't read it either, but what's the delta between, okay, so Christina, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I just had a couple of questions. So on, I think it's the 6th bullet down, the one that starts with allocate a minimum of 1.5 million for capital. Kind of the second to the last sentence, talks about the ARPA revenue. I'm just wondering if you might want to pull that into its own bullet, just because I know some of the examples of ARPA funding uses actually weren't capital. So just to sort of make it its own. The other thing was OPEB. Normally, I think we put like $200,000 towards OPEB. I know we didn't last year because of COVID. Can you just talk about where the OPEB liability lies right now?
The liability, I think we're about between 11 and 12% funded. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we had a very good year investment wise. We made over $1 million, which is fantastic because it was a down year for the actual contribution. We only contributed a little over $600,000, where the year before we were around 1.2 million. So yeah, what we want to try to do is get that funding back up to 1.2 million. What we've done in the past, if we couldn't meet that goal, sometimes we'd appropriate some free cash, like 200,000 or so, just so we still are getting that money into the OPEB trust, with the bulk of it coming through the operating budget.
Okay. And then
Jody?
this may be a question for
1 minute, Christina. Jody, do you have the response to the previous topic, or?
Yeah, I like Christina's suggestion that we pull ARPA out into its own, and we'll tweak that to reflect that it isn't just capital. So I think that's a very good suggestion. And I would just say about OPEB, as Dan said, I mean, there have been a few years that we've been able to fund it within the budget at the amount that we have in our policy. And there's been a couple of years we needed to supplement. So, hopefully we'll have a good year. We'll be able to fund it entirely through the budget again.
I just had one more. On the TSSTF, this may be a question for Tom Clay or somebody else, but do we have a status on that or an update?
Jody?
The mental health group has met a couple of times. I don't remember if you're on that, Christina, but I believe that is going to be discussed pretty soon, because I believe some of those recommendations, they are asking whether ARPA can be used for that. So I would think that is coming fairly soon. But I think in terms of this was in the last one, and we didn't want to remove it. So we just left it in there. I think, I don't know if Dan sent you the track changes of this. But anyway, so we left that because it was in, we did add the moving to the partially self-funded health insurance. And but a lot of the other language is just what's been in the last several years. So.
Right. No, I know it had just nothing. I haven't seen any recommendations come out of it. So I just didn't know if there was something specific or not. And it was just, I was wondering what those might be.
I think what they're recommending, but again, I don't think any vote has been taken by the TSSTF, but I believe what they are looking at is hiring a mental health resource coordinator. So there is a job description out there, but I think if you want to email Tom and ask, for another meeting or something, that certainly would be appropriate.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay. So I was about to ask about what the major changes from the last year, right? So the thing I see is the ARPA funds, and anything else?
Yeah, so last year is a little bit different. We knew, we had financial constraints more so than ever. So we didn't allocate the 1.5 million. We said, attempt to allocate 1.5 million if possible. And we actually allocated less than that at that point, just to make sure our free cash balance was in good shape moving forward. The ARPA was one, and the partially self-funded health insurance trust was the other one.
Thank you. I think that fits well with me. Okay. So this is a direction provided. There is no recommendation or anything, right? We just can move on to the next one.
Hari, actually, the board has asked for your input, and occasionally you've suggested a word or two of changes, but so I am taking this to them on Tuesday nights. So if you have any recommendations, that would be great to know those in advance.
Okay. So the recommend, I personally, I can't really recommend it right away because I will review it, and if there's anything, I will email. I will suggest anyone else do the same, unless you have any recommendations right now. Tom?
So just one point on the bullet about any new proposed ongoing positions and whatnot. Yeah, just at some point we may need to consider the consideration of mitigating a risk, as it's not really a revenue, it's not reducing an expense, but I could see that some proposed expenses or positions would be to mitigate some potential risk down the road. So just something I'm seeing that we may want to consider in the future.
Anyone else?
Jody, would you want us to give you a motion on Christina's recommendation on the bullet?
I don't think so, because we like it, and so we'll change it. So I don't think that's necessary. If I didn't agree with something you were proposing, then I think we could bring them to, 2 copies, but that's fine. I'm happy to follow her direction. And Tom, what I would say is, this was added because we didn't, this has been in here several years, but we didn't want anybody proposing new positions that we didn't have revenue to support. So that was really just to let people know, we needed the revenue before we hire the position, or the position could be gone the following year. Now, that said, I do believe that our town and school safety task force might be asking to use ARPA funds, but I think they are looking at it as maybe a trial with that position over a period of time. But that was really, don't hire teachers if you don't have the funds to pay those teachers in the next budget, or same with police and fire. So that's what it was supposed to mean. And we've done a very good job of not doing that. And if we really wanted a new position, of finding a corresponding reduction, generally when somebody left the town's employment, before we brought in a new position. So that was the purpose.
Okay. So we can conclude that agenda item.
Well, I would like a vote in favor if possible, so we can say this is what the Finance Committee supported.
I'd move that we support it.
Any second?
With
Second.
with the
With the changes.
recommended change.
Yeah.
With the recommended changes from Christina. Okay.
Second.
Okay. Hari? Yes. Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
You have it. Thank you. The next agenda item is assign and CPC, Jeff Hill. Permanent Town Building Committee. So that's vacant. Okay, first, Capital Committee. As Heather and Christine, are you okay with continuing?
I am.
Yes.
CPC, Jeff.
Yeah, for sure.
26, Permanent Town Building Committee. So that's Cunningham is not with us. So that's up for anyone. Okay. Jake,
Sure,
how comfortable?
I'll take it.
Okay. Yep. Okay. School committee, myself and Jake. Jake, are you comfortable continuing on?
So I haven't been able to make a whole lot of school committee meetings, and I'd like to be more involved with whatever committee I'm supporting. So clean energy is open, so I'm happy to support that one as a substitute, or as the main point of contact.
Okay, so 29. Any other? So are you everybody okay with Jake moving on to clean energy?
Yeah, good luck.
I can be the backup for school committee.
Thank you, Beth. Actually, would you mind being primary and I will be backup?
Sure. Are they still having the subcommittee? Have you been attending any of those, or?
I've been.
They have
little.
not had the
They're
finance.
not really
subcommittee
meeting?
yet. Not yet.
Okay, I can check with the chair and see
Yeah.
when they're meeting, so, because I think that'd be important for us to be involved with.
Town and School Safety Task Force, Christina.
So I'm willing to give this up for somebody else to take over.
So there would be Tom, there would
I'll
be
take
Ingrid,
it.
Dennis. Okay.
Christina, do you want the main capital and I'll be the alternate? Do you want to switch since you gave that up?
It doesn't matter to me.
She attends anyway.
We'll wing it.
Do you want to wait and just leave it? It really doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, we'll just see what
Okay.
happens.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So there are no other committees or things we need to represent, only these ones, right? So IAC. So no, that's partial funding thingy. When would we know about that, Jody?
I'm sorry, Andrea was texting me about COVID. So what did you ask?
So we discussed earlier that the insurance, the partially funded insurance trust thing, and there would be a finance committee plug in there, right? So when would that be after the town meeting approved it, and that's when we would know, right? At this point, we don't need to allocate somebody for this.
Right, if it passes town meeting, then we'll be asking the select board to form that task force. So probably the first meeting after town meeting.
Okay. And we don't need to consider that right now.
Hari, there's another committee that I am spacing on the acronym right now, but it started with Ingrid and I was the alternate, but then I took her place, but I didn't know if Ingrid, I don't even know what's happening. It hasn't met in forever. So I'm just throwing it out
All right,
there.
I think I need a little more information. What
It's
was
the,
this committee about?
The tax break or the for the property tax.
Oh, I'm not sure that committee still exists.
I think it does because they made me because I was the FinCom liaison, but they made me go in and do the oath and everything again.
Yeah, they have a daytime meeting. I can't do daytime
Okay.
meetings, so.
So Heather, if you remember or see any emails from your history, just let us know and we will discuss that on 28th or at the town meeting.
It should be
So-
winding down. It is on our list of committee assignments. That's all.
Okay.
Hey, Harry, I got a question.
Sure.
Do we just contact these committee heads ourselves to let us know that we've been appointed, or does somebody send us a letter? Somebody send a letter to them?
Dennis, for the Town and School Safety Task Force, I'll send an email to Tom Clay and Scott Hazelton and CC you on it
I
to say that
appreciate
you're going to be taking over.
Very good. Thank you.
Was there a committee for the ARPA funding that FinCom is involved with, or? Because I know
Jody?
there's more discussions about that.
Yes, so that's going to be on the October 12th select board meeting. And I don't know what they're going to do, whether they're going to form a committee or why, I don't know. It's up to the select board to make that decision, but it will be on the October 12th select board agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Heather?
Sorry, slider, it's the slider committee. So I don't even know, Jody, is that, maybe you can answer, is that still in existence?
You know, I thought the select board voted to dissolve that.
Did too.
Yeah, because, we got the whole thing passed and through the legislature, but it's still on the books. So, and I'm going to check on that and I will let you all know tomorrow, because I'm not sure if there's anything else that needs to be done while we, put all that together. So let me get back to you. Christine's on vacation this week, so it will probably be Monday, but I will check on the status, but I know they haven't been meeting. I don't think there's been much for them to do. So, but I know staff is working on developing everything to let people apply for that. So, but I'll give you an update next week.
Okay, can I just ask, what's the process? Do committees formally get dissolved by the select board when they're done? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
If the select board appointed the committee, then yes, that's who formally dissolves it. And I thought they asked to be dissolved a long time ago, but I don't really remember whether that happened. I don't think it did. So I gotta get back to you. I can't answer this correctly.
It's a great trivia question, though.
So Hari, we just went through a schedule a little bit ago and we're going through these assignments. What's the expectation on this assignment right now specifically?
In general, you would attend the meetings and if there are any developments or any of such things that would need us to consider, you would report back in the future finance committee meeting. Usually they provide us a little bit of background information when we are considering the budget policies. Like, let's say if a new $2 million capital item has come, we really look to the capital committee representative to say, hey, what's the background of it and what's the scoop, right? So there is a little bit of presentation from the capital committee and the person who is leading the project, but also something else from the finance committee member. So it's just a way to, some things they would need something, a finance committee input. So you would provide that, and something we need from back. So it's kind of, you're a bridge between two committees.
Okay, sounds cool.
Do you have a voting right on these committees, or we just reporting?
I definitely, we don't have on school committee, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on the committee. I think, Heather, you have an voting on the capital, right?
So, yeah, the only ones with voting are Capital and Town and School Safety Task Force.
Thank you.
And to Dennis's earlier question, if I could know who to contact for clean energy and sustainability, that would be great. Or somebody could put me in touch with that person.
That's Mike Berlins. That's Mike Berlinski, right?
Right, Eric can put you in touch too.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Jody, you were supposed to say something. I kind of interrupted.
I was just going to tell Jake to contact Eric, but luckily, Jake, maybe for you, that committee does meet during the day. So that might be helpful. I don't know, and virtually too. But if any of you need connection with any of these, just please send me an email and I'm happy to connect you with whoever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, So move to the next agenda item. Request to volunteer to participate in the qualifications review of proposed energy savings performance contract.
All right, so this was a request from Eric. He wanted a FinCom volunteer to review the vendors who have come in and actually do the energy audit. So he's looking for FinCom volunteer. And I believe this will be done during the day.
Since I'm the new committee chair, I don't mind, or representative of FinCom, I don't mind being a representative for this, as long as it doesn't conflict with schedules.
Okay.
Can I just interrupt, Hari? I'm
Yeah.
going to get off. I have an early select board meeting, so I want to be fresh for that. So good night, everybody, and thank you very much.
Good night,
Good night
Jody.
and thanks for
All
joining,
right,
Jody.
bye.
Okay, so we have solved that 825 item. And 830, Finance Committee book assignments.
Can I ask for some background on what the commitment for this is, or what the expectation is, please?
You got to
So-
go back and draft the.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Dan. Dan will explain better than.
So basically, you'd be in charge of the finance committee asks questions ahead of time before the budget reviews to get more detail out there. All those questions are actually online on the town budget website. I can send you a link too. But basically, for each section, you'd be responsible for compiling and getting rid of duplicate questions before submitting to us to put in responses. Also, with the finance committee book, each category here has a section that you'd be responsible for the write-up for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, let's sort through the delta, right? Is everybody, whatever they're doing for 21, are they okay with doing 22, or do you want to switch? Definitely, we don't have anybody for John.
I'm good to stay with what I got.
Yeah, me too.
To be honest, for the school committee, I am compiling a lot of questions, but usually the finance book, Dan plugs everything without bothering me. So I can do the school continue. I can continue the school and water enterprise.
I'll do revenue, because, or is Lewy still on the committee, or?
No, Tom is Levi's.
Okay.
And I'll stay with my two. I think those, I'll already be at the community preservation, and the debt service was it was a good exercise, so I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I can take over risk management, unclassified, and revenue then.
I'm happy to continue with Health and Human Services.
Dennis, are you continuing with public safety?
Yes, I said that. I'll do both.
I'll stick with general government.
Okay, so that leaves public works and culture and recreation enterprise.
Hari, I'll take the same ones that I had this year.
I'll give a shot at Public Works then. I wanna.
Anyone else for stormwater and capital? Heather. She said yes for capital.
Yeah, I'll do capital.
I almost thought evil to add both of you because you talked on mute, but I no. Okay, stormwater. I'll take it, Dan. No, but no one wants to. Okay, so do we have anything else there to discuss?
I had a question that not really necessarily to this, but are we all virtual now for the foreseeable future? Not that we're meeting right away, but in all committees?
I think select board, well, I don't know. So does the September 28th select board meeting, is it virtual?
I don't know, the one tomorrow, oh no, tomorrow is hybrid.
Well, it's select board meeting and there will be finance committee. All of us cannot fit in that room with 6 feet distance. So it probably must be hybrid. But okay, so none of us have answer there. We can move on. Oops. 1 minute. I think I closed my agenda. Okay, so if we are done with finance book assignments, we'll move to approval of minutes of May 20th, 2021.
Unless there's discussion, I'd make a motion to accept them as they were.
Anyone have any? So Dan, do we need the meeting minutes for the one we met with the select board last time, or they are not needed for, we posted FinCom, but we did not talk anything there.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I don't think we've actually approved them. Patty wrote them, and I think they go to select board for approval. If you want me to get you a set of those minutes to approve, I can do that.
Whatever is, and so because it's voted by select board, right? So there's not really accomplish anything by voting again. So we can leave it there. Okay, so anybody want to second Jeff's motion?
Second.
Okay. Hari, aye. Christina?
I wasn't there, so I'll abstain.
Okay. Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Dane, I wasn't a
Tom
member.
is Tom is not there. Ingrid, you are not there.
Abstain.
Beth?
Abstain, I was not present.
Wow. Jake?
Aye.
And Heather?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Okay, so we have that recorded. Okay, we have moving on to future meetings. That's September 28th, 2021 at select board meeting. That's 7:30 p.m. right, or 7 p.m.
I believe it's 7:30. I'll check for y'all. We'll send it out tomorrow when they post a meeting. Make sure you all have that.
Okay, thank you. And October 16th, that's possibly at 1 p.m. Still to be determined on the 28th. Okay, and any other topics or comments before we adjourn for the day?
No, good job, Harry.
Well, we are competent people, all of us. Okay, so I call the today's finance committee meeting to be adjourned. Do we need to have a motion?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Third.
Hari, aye. Christina,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
The finance committee meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Aye.
Night.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.